Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am your teacher Simi Amir, and today I'm here again with a new lecture. I hope everything is going well with you and your family. Let's start today's lecture. This is my lecture number 9 for grade 7, and it's geography. So, as you know, that we are done with first term, and today we are going to start our second term. We have to do four chapters in second term, which is chapter number 3, water resources, chapter number 4, land supply, chapter number 5, mineral and energy resources, and chapter number 6, which is people and resources. So today we are going to start our chapter number 3, which is water resources. So please keep your books open. It's page number 32, and the first topic is water supply. Water supply is the provision of water by public utilities, commercial organizations, community endeavors, or by individuals, usually via a system of pumps and pipes. Irrigation is covered separately. About 70% of Earth's surface is covered by water and only 30% is land. So you can see that 70% of Earth is water and only 30% is land. So in fact, the Earth is known as the blue planet because its 70% area is filled with water. You maybe wonder why water is treated as something so precious when there is plenty of it around. Like we have 70% of whole earth is covered with water. So why we are treating this water as something so precious? Even nowadays we can see like there's a water shortage in Bahria town. There's a huge water shortage in whole Pakistan. This is because that if we take only the part of water like the 70% of water, leave it the land and just take the water. Now let the water make 100%, like this 70% of earth, we will take only that part and now it will be the 100% of water with us. In this 100%, about 97% of water is seawater or ocean water. And you know this water is salt water, that is salty. And the fresh water is only 3%. The seawater or the salt water that cannot be used for agriculture or drinking. We cannot use this for any consumption. It means that only 3% of water is fresh water. And you know, if we take only 3% of this fresh water, now let me explain only the fresh water. If we take this 3% and make it 100%, now from this 100%, 79% of fresh water is stored in ice sheets and glaciers. 79% of this water is stored in ice sheets and glacier. And 20% of this water is available as groundwater. 20% of water is underground. This is called the groundwater. And only 1% of fresh water is found on the surface in rivers, streams, and lakes. That's why we are treating water as something so precious. Global water resources. Globally, we have different types of resources for water, but not all of them are safe for human consumption. Just like around 97% of water is stored in seas and oceans, and that is not safe for human consumption. Although we can make it suitable for our consumption after the process of desalination. Desalination is the removal of salt from seawater. Then another way is rivers, lakes, and streams and springs, swamps. These water we can say is a fresh water, and that is safe for human consumption. And another way is the frozen ice caves, snows, glaciers, ice sheets. These ice sheets are on the mountains. The meltwater is water released by the melting of snow or ice, including the glacial ice, the tabular icebergs, and the ice shelves over oceans. Meltwater is often found in the ablation zone of glaciers, where the rate of snow cover is reducing. Meltwater can collect or melt under the ice surface. Even the rivers or the lakes or the, we can say the streams, they are collecting their water from the melt of snow. Like we have different rivers in Pakistan, but the largest one is um, or the longest one is the Indus River. The Indus River is collecting its water from the melting snow of the glaciers and ice sheets of Himalayas. Then another way of, or we can say another resource of water is underground water. And you know that globally, 20% of the water is stored underground, which is safe, which is safe for human consumption, but is not safe only in areas near industries where there are industrial seepage. Okay, now the second topic here is factors affecting the water supply. Now, what are the factors that can affect the water supply when we have abundance of water on the earth? We have 97%, we can say, the water is in oceans or seas, or even we can see the on earth, 70% of earth's part is covered with water. Why is it that water supply is not regular in some areas, like in Pakistan, or we can say in a Bahria town? We don't have a fresh water here. So there are certain factors that can affect the supply of water in different areas. The first one is the precipitation. Precipitation is a rainfall. This is something like the water or the water that is coming falling back from the from that is falling back on the earth from the sky. So that is precipitation. Precipitation could be in a form of rainfall, in a form of hailing, or we can say in a snowfall. So the first thing is that precipitation is not uh, equally distributed throughout the world. In some areas, there's more precipitation, more rainfall, more we can say snowfall. But in some areas, they are having very low rainfall, or we can say they are completely dry. So this is the factor that can affect the supply of water. The global distribution of precipitation is influenced by the general circulation of the atmosphere, the proximity to large bodies of water, and topography. Precipitation is most abundant where air rises and least abundant where it sinks. It also tends to be greater near oceans and lakes and in higher elevations. Let me read from your book also. Precipitation is unevenly distributed throughout the world. The tropical regions receive high rainfall due to constant heating and favorable global circulation of air. The world is actually divided in different climatic regions. So one of the region is a tropical region where it receives abundant rainfall. So the desert region receive very little rainfall. Hence, regions that border with the deserts are often in need of water and droughts are common. Drought is the area, we can say it's a condition where a long, we can say a prolonged time without any water, without rainfall. That is drought. So droughts are common there. In different regions of the world, we can see many of the countries are in Africa and Middle East that compare. Do the regions that receive low precipitation also experience water scarcity? Scarcity means insufficiency, or when we have a less water supply, we can say we have a water scarcity. So, the amount of water down from the atmosphere to the Earth's surface is called precipitation, and this is unevenly distributed in the world. The tropical region receives high rainfall due to constant heating and favorable circulation of air. Now, constant heating leads to evaporation. So, because of the higher evaporation, the higher the rainfall will be. The second factor that can affect the supply of clean, fresh water is the climate change. Droughts, intense rains, and floods occur naturally and involve many factors, including geography, but climate change can exacerbate these events. For example, temperature rise leads to greater evaporation rates and plant transpiration. Transpiration means when the plant releases water in the atmosphere. And evapotranspiration means when that water evaporates and give us water, give us rainfall. The plant transpiration results in water loss in soil and plants. Climate change has a significant impact on water resources as there is a close connection between climate and the supply of water. An increase in temperature means higher evaporation and hence increases precipitation. Overall, there should be an increase in water supply. However, droughts and floods may become more frequent in various parts of the world. It is believed that droughts and floods would be more severe, and this is not necessarily good for water resource. Higher temperature would mean lower soil moisture, faster evaporation, and eventually more demand for water, especially in agriculture. Drought is a situation where there's an absence of water in a prolonged time, like uh, no rainfall for a long time. Okay, another factor is pollution that can affect the supply of clean, fresh water. Pollution decreases the quality of fresh water. This is caused by a combination of runoff from agriculture chemicals, poorly managed and sometimes out of date industrial processes, and lack of adequate treatment for sewage and other urban waste. This rubbish can reduces the amount of clean, fresh water for us. This pollution, we can say the water pollution, can also affect the aquatic life. Dead fish, birds, dolphins, and many other animals often wind up on beaches and killed by pollutants in their habitats. Pollution disrupts the natural food chain as well. Pollutants such as lead and cadmium are eaten by tiny animals. Water pollution reduces the supply of clean, fresh water. Air pollution will lead to contaminated rainwater, such as acid rain. With 6 billion people producing waste in the form of rubbish and sewage, water pollution is a major problem. Power plants, factories, and mining activities further pollute the water with their discharge of waste, while agriculture is one of the major causes of water pollution. The chemicals used to increase the quantity of food to get rid of pests and weeds are washed into rivers and lakes. Pests are small insects type animals and weeds are the unwanted small plants. So we are using some sprays, chemical sprays to get rid of these things. Clean water is scarce in many of the semi-desert developing countries. Like this is insufficient in these countries where water pollution reduces the scarce supply. Already shortage of water can be reduced. Women and children have to travel great distances for water every day. Another factor for affecting the water supply is change in the use of land. This land use change is arguably the most pervasive socioeconomic force driving changes and degradation of ecosystem. Deforestation, urban development, agriculture, and other human activities have substantially altered the Earth's landscape. However, intensive agriculture has potentially severe ecosystem consequences. Like a forest act like a sponge. soaking up rainwater while anchoring the soils. When a forest cover is cleared, the rainwater runs off rapidly into rivers and streams, increasing the water levels. The elevated water levels causes floods in downstreams villages, cities, and agricultural areas. The loss of tree cover increases the amount of sediments in the water. The sediments in large amounts pollutes the water. The rapid rate of runoff also means that less water infiltrates the soil. So because of the deforestation, now there is a rapid runoff of water towards the water bodies, and which that increases the amount of sediments in the water, which also leads to the water pollution. Trees add humidity or moisture in the atmosphere through evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration is a process in which the trees releases water into the atmosphere. Water that is transpired and evaporated from rain clouds, which contributes rainfall. When a forest is lost or after deforestation, there is less transpiration resulting in less cloud formation and less rainfall in return. I have told you that transpiration means when trees releasing water in the atmosphere, and evapotranspiration means when that water evaporates. So if there is less transpiration, resulting in less cloud formation and less rainfall in return. In some cases, desertification occurs. This is because of the rapid process of evapotranspiration results in desertification. Now, what is desertification? This is the process by which fertile land becomes desert, typically as a result of drought or deforestation or inappropriate agriculture. Desertification refers to the persistent degradation of dry land ecosystem by climatic variations and by human activities. It occurs on all continents except Antarctica and affects the livelihoods of millions of people, including a large proportion of the poor in dry land. The changing of land use from farmland to housing development and cities result in a greater runoff and more floods. Just because of this Bahria town that was once a grassland, or we can say a hilly grassland, and we have changed this landscape. We have make flatted areas, the roads here, all the infrastructure is available here. So we have totally changed the use of land. The impervious surface in urban areas prevent water from infiltrating the soil, and the groundwater cannot be replenished when water cannot seep into the ground. Water that flows into the storm sewers often carries with it chemicals and dirt from the streets, contaminating the nearby rivers. So, these were the factors that can affect the supply of clean, fresh water. Now, let me give you the reasons why there is a rising demand of water, why we need more and more water. So, there are different reasons. The first one is the population growth. The population growth particularly will limit the amount of water available per person because an increase in per capita water consumption driven by development will intensify water demand, straining the local water supply. The world's population grew rapidly since the 1960s. Although the growth has slowed down in recent years, the population size is the largest the world has ever seen. There are about 6 billion people and they have to compete for the limited water supply. There's a greater demand for water for basic things like bathing, cooking, drinking, and washing. Approximately 15% of fresh water is used in households. Urbanization causes increase in water demand for other purposes. You know what is urbanization? Urbanization is the increase in the proportion of people living in towns and cities. Urbanization occurs because people move from rural areas. Rural areas are the countryside, or we can say the village people. They are moving to urban areas, to the towns and cities. This usually occurs when a country is still developing. So, as the world becomes more affluent and urbanized, water is used for other purposes other than the basic needs. More clean water is needed for activities such as watering lawns, washing cars, and swimming pools. Today, it is estimated that half the world's population live in urban areas. Another reason for rising demand of water is agriculture. Agriculture is agriculture uses water as it used to grow fresh produce and sustain livestock. The use of agriculture water makes it possible to grow fruits and vegetables and raise livestock, which is a main part of our diet. A decrease in applied water can cause production and yield to decrease. So the need of water increases as, according to FAO projects, that irrigated food production will increase by more than 50% by 2050. But the amount of water withdrawn by agriculture can increase by only 10%, provided that irrigation practices are improved and yields increases. With more people to feed, more land has to be farmed so that there is enough food to go around. Water is essential for agriculture, and more cultivation means more water is needed. 69% of fresh water is used for agriculture worldwide. The water that is used comes not only from rivers and lakes, but also from underground supplies. Underground water is drawn for use through wells. In fact, in some countries, so much of the underground water supplies has been used that the water supply is running very low. Underground water supply means when we are tapping out the groundwater through wells or through carriage system. Another reason for the rising need of water is industrialization. The growth of industries began with the Industrial Revolution in Britain. Since then, countries in Western Europe have become industrialized. Following Western Europe were countries in East Asia, mainly South Korea, Japan, and China. Countries in South and Southeast Asia have also embarked successfully on large scale industrialization. China, for example, is a major manufacturing powerhouse. Water is needed in power plants and factories for cooling of engines and machinery. Water is also being used as a power resource in hydroelectric power plants. Huge volume of water is used to work massive turbines in order to produce electricity. Many other industries such as tin ore mining and oil refineries make use of huge amount of water in their processing. The demand for electricity has increased following the growth in the population, especially the growth in the urban population. According to the United Nations, only 13% of the world's population lived in urban areas in 1900s. The percentage grew to 49% in 2005, and it is estimated that it will be 60% in 2030. An urban dweller uses more resources than one who lives in the rural areas. The dwellers are the residents, the urban residents that uses more resources than one who lives in the rural areas. The reliance of the urban population on electric appliances in urban homes means greater electricity usage. Increasing demand for manufactured goods has also driven up the demand for power by factories, and it is an endless cycle. More people, higher demand for energy such as electricity, more or bigger power plants, and more water will be needed. So I think that's enough for today's lecture. Here is an assignment for you. You have to do three questions today. The first question is, why is water treated as something so precious when there is plenty of it around us? So the answer is, the seas and the oceans hold about 97% of the water on Earth. That is salt water, and that cannot be used for agriculture or drinking. That means only 3% of water is fresh water. 79% of fresh water is stored in ice sheets and glaciers. 20% is stored as groundwater, and only 1% of fresh water is found on the surface in rivers, streams, and lakes. That's why water is treated as something so precious. The second question is, what is evapotranspiration? And as I've told you in the lecture, the process by which water is transferred from the land to the atmosphere by evaporation from the soil and other surfaces and by transpiration from plants. In simple words, this is the evaporation of water released by plants in the atmosphere. Question number 3 is, what is desertification? The answer is, desertification is the process whereby productive land becomes so seriously eroded that any remaining soil loses nutrients essential to plant growth. The natural causes are main for drought, higher temperatures, lower water table, and deforested land. Erosion, especially wind erosion. Water table is the level of water underground. So lower water table means when the water ground is reduced to some extent. So that is, the lower water table is also the cause of desertification. Thank you so much, dear students, for watching this video. We'll come again with another lecture in another video. Please do your work on your notebooks neatly and make a margin line. It must write today's day and date and maintain your index. Till then, bye.